Welcome to the Maria Heller Show, on the net since 2000 and still going strong. If you feel like you're not getting the real news, if you feel like you're not connected spiritually, you have found your home. Meria covers a wide range of topics as only a snarky New Yorker can. Straight up, no chaser. No censorship, no corporate sponsors, thus true freedom of speech. Your subscription gives you unlimited access as a member of the smartest audience on earth. Relax and enjoy the education. Now here's Meria.
Good morning, world. Meria here, alive and kicking. Welcome to Awaken with Meria and Monnica, the breath of fresh air once a month, where we talk about things that actually make a difference in your life. And today we're going to be talking about peace amongst the chaos as we continue to mull through Planet of the Apes, trying to keep our balance. So if you're not familiar with Monnica Sepulveda's work, get over to Monnica, MONNICA.com. There's a live link right here. She does great work, and she's as sweet can come. So good morning, Monnica.
Aw, thank you. Good morning, Meria. How are you?
I'm good. The weather's starting to change here, so it's getting a little warmer, which is wonderful. So I'm glad about that.
I love that. Yeah, it's cold here at night in California, but during the day it's been in the 60s. And my fruit trees, they're bearing fruit. I've got mandarins and lemons and oranges, and oh my gosh, there's nothing better than to pick some fruit.
I know, I miss that.
And to make some juice.
I miss that. When I used to live in the valley, I had my own lemon and lime trees in my yard, and I used to love going out and just taking a fresh lemon and using it in my cooking. It was heaven.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely, yeah.
It was heaven on earth. But I did want to say that today is my granddaughter Jessica's birthday. She's 23 today.
Oh, my gosh. Happy birthday, Jessica. You got an aquarium there, huh?
Oh, yeah. She's an interesting one. That's the tattoo artist.
Yeah. Well, she's born on the 18th, so that's a 9. And the 9 helps other people and does things for other people to make them feel happy. So that would be creative for her. And being born in the second month with that 9 is an 11 to pinnacle, which means that she likes to be inspired in order to inspire others.
Well, she's inspiring, all right, but the girls are off to Vegas having some fun to celebrate her birthday.
How fun.
So that's good.
Why not, right?
It's just hard for me to believe that she's 23 years old. You know, it just seems like you blink and boom, there they are, full-grown women.
Yeah. It's unbelievable.
Know,
anyway, sorry about me, you guys. I've been sick with the flu for about 2 weeks. I've just recovered. All the infection's gone. It's been really bad in California. In fact, it's killed like 6,000 people. And this is a different kind of strain that we've gone through here because I don't get sick ever. So for me to get it this time around, it was like, what? I didn't even get it, you know. So I was down for a count for a couple weeks. So if I sound a little scratchy or, you know, you hear me like I sound like I have a little cold, I'm just getting over it. I'm back to normal. I'm going back to work this week. And I'm so happy to start this work week with this particular show because I love this topic.
Right.
And,
well, I've noticed that a lot of people since this year began have had serious physical sicknesses and illnesses.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I don't know why. Why did this year start off so severe? It's like,
I think I have the answer to that because I really, learn a lot from everything that I go through. And that's the whole point of this life. Is that this place is a school, and we keep forgetting about it, and people get stuck and they don't listen, they don't learn, and don't utilize new techniques and tools that we have in order to stay, like the way you always end your show, the ticket out of here is a spiritual one. And it's true because we're a spirit that comes to this planet, gets a body and mind and emotions, but then we get really sucked into this earth, and the things happening there start to control us, which, as our friend Dave Dyke always says, love is the only reality there is. Everything else is an illusion. But we buy into it because it is so real that we react to it. And the key is not what happens, it's how we react to it. I believe that it's all data. It's all information that's showing us the state of the world and the mindset of people that keeps compounding itself. As more people worry, there's more things to worry about. As more people fear, there's more things to fear. And yes, in fact, there is an agenda to control. And, there's not a lot of people in that group. I think there's 133 or 300 or something like that. But the key is there's 7 billion of us, and by each of us taking care of our space and doing what we need to do, which is choose to create differently, to react differently and to create and define who we are. And who we are is love, period. All the other bullshit stuff we tell ourselves about ourselves is stuff that we perceive. We go into self-criticism, which I find has probably been the most difficult lesson since I started my work full-time in 1972. Yep, I'm up there. I've been doing this work for, it'll be 49 years. I think 49, whatever. Anyway, in May, maybe 48. But anyway, the key that I found, even back then, I found that people are still very hard on themselves. They buy into and allow media to let them dictate how they should be looking, how, all this crap that they put in their body in order to be able to look younger, like fillers and Botox and all that kind of stuff, I believe what ages is something that Lincoln said. Our face looks like whatever we're thinking about after age 60. So we go back to the thoughts, and we go back to emotions. Those things are filled with toxic vibrations because we buy into, first of all, fear. And what's the definition of fear? An absence of love. Duh. That's a clue. Number two, what's the definition of worry? A lack of faith. Faith in what? Faith in ourselves and faith in something greater than ourselves, which we know there is something greater than ourselves. Whatever you want to call it, it exists. I call it the source of love. Some people call it God. Some people call it higher power. Some people call it spirit, the source. I like calling it the source of love because it is love, period. Or the I am. That's another good one, too, because if you keep saying to yourself, I am that I am, I am that I am, I am that I am, it automatically links us to the I am. As a matter of fact, if you even say that as a chant, you get pretty high from it. So if you like feeling high, just say that.
Right. Well, I have to tell you, I'm sure you heard Michael Rekia's last show with me. And when he posited that when you wake up in the morning, instead of saying, what do I want to do today? Or what do I want to achieve today? Or bring to me today? Say, what does the God within me want today?
Yeah. Because that's God. We're one with God. We're one with, and when we make that linkage, I always say when I wake up, my heart is connected to the source of love called God. And together we are one, together we are light, together we are love. And I give thanks for this today. And then I ask for all things to be protected that I love, including my home, my cat, my car, my family, my friends, everybody. So it takes me about 20 minutes to go through that process, which to me is worth it because it sets the tone for the day. So here's the problem. A lot of people, including yours truly, because we all go through this stuff, have gone through phases in our lives where we're constantly living in the past. And the left brain stores that information, but the right brain stores intuition. And the key is to be able to let go of the past so that we can get to the right brain, which gives us guidance, and it never lies because it can't. The left brain stores history. We know that. We have to have the left brain, because otherwise we won't know that 2 and 2 equals 4. But it also stores old memories. So how do we get out of that? There's one way that I found that is probably the easiest way, because then we become victims if we stay there. Okay, and Maria, I've gone through it. Everybody has a story to tell.
Of course.
I've been sequestered. I was held captive in a house by an Iranian man. I was raped by 2 different men. I had to escape. So, I've been through my hell, and I've had my own hellish childhood as well. It's all in my book that I'm writing. But everyone has a story to tell. Everyone. I don't care who's here on this planet. Nobody's life that I have met has been perfect. And even if it looked perfect, and I used to admire them, do you believe I used to admire people like Princess Diana and Michael Jackson? And it's like, no, it's not a good idea. Be appreciative of your own space. So here's what happens. When we start to, the other third one that's a real biggie is doubt. Doubt is the big one because that means that we haven't learned to define who we are. So who are we? We're love, period, end of subject. When you start telling yourself, or we tell ourselves that we're this or we're that, we're too fat or too thin or too tall, too skinny, too, not good enough. We use those words that berate ourselves, which is a form of self-abuse. And when we do that, that's what causes us to actually lower our frequency to the point where the body gets impacted by it, and we start going through different disease, a lack of ease. Mm-hmm. So therefore, we have to change those, and we have to pick a lane every morning. Today I choose love. Today I choose faith. Today I choose self-love and trust. and my heart is connected. Now, that in itself, it took me all of, 10 seconds to say? That's all we have to do in order to get ourselves on a path. But I also believe in gratitude, that we have to be grateful, count our blessings, not our problems. So the key is problems exist. They've already happened. If you're going through something right now, why? So I've learned that the key here is to find the lesson within the challenge. And once you've learned the lesson, you haven't lost anything. And sometimes we go through really difficult things. And I heard something yesterday that it really struck me. You know, we can either be victimized, or victim-wise. And what I found is that we all go through difficulties, but we have to go out on the playing field and not sit on the sidelines by simply saying that everything I went through and everything that appears that I lost, I paid a huge price for it, but it was my tuition that I paid. Mm-hmm. Therefore, it was worth it. Because
Absolutely.
We're on this school of life, and we're here to learn lessons. We have to keep learning, but most important is we learn, redefine who we are. You're not those things that you think you are. You are pure love. And if you start going into self-criticism at all you have to do is just say, wait a minute, get out of my head. But, I use colorful language because to me it's more impactful. So I'll just say, get the fuck out of my head,
Right.
And I'll just say, no, I'm love. I'm not those things. That's the old Monnica. That's not who she is. Who I am is love, period. Mm-hmm. And the light that comes from that which guides me all day, which is a beautiful white light, immediately goes through my entire being and touches everything that is unlike itself to be healed. It immediately converts those old energies from wherever they come from and immediately turns them to light and love. Mm-hmm. So therefore, those things disappear. We don't have to sit there and go, why am I worried? Why am I this? Why am I? No, right. Okay. Acknowledge that you have those things and just ask that white light to immediately convert the energy to pure light and love. And within about 10 minutes, there's a feeling of shift and peace that overtakes us.
Right.
But the beautiful thing, Meria, is I found that instead of looking at what we lost or what happened to us, just say, you know what, I paid my tuition. I learned. That was an education that was worth it.
Pay your dues is more than just an expression, but then you have people that say, and I often look at this, not so much now that I'm older, I get it. But when I was younger, everybody says, oh, if I had my life to live over again. And they go into, all the mistakes they think they made, all the wrong relationships they thought they were in. But the truth of the matter is, the older you get, especially when you're in your work is helping other people, you start to realize that everything was perfect the way it was for who you are right now and what you can offer to other people.
Absolutely. I totally agree. And, it's interesting, like I was thinking last night, that expression, youth is wasted on the young, because they think that everything is like, duh, I remember in my 20s being the same way too, and it's like, well, I don't know why they keep saying that. That's not true, And I thought, oh man, now that I'm in my 60s, it would be nice to be this wise earlier, but I think that everything that we go through in life
exactly
is typically what we need. It's what we need.
Right. Well, for me, I've never really respected teachers that haven't lived what they're teaching.
Oh my gosh.
And the best example off the top of my head is John Bradshaw. Okay. He didn't just go to school, read a couple of books, put a certificate on his wall. The guy lived through all the pain, the suffering, the alcoholism, everything else, the questioning of his religion, everything to go with it. So I have a lot of respect for people that have actually coming from experience. And
his books are excellent,
right?
By the way.
And when I was younger, I had so many dastardly things happen to me, too many to name. But every time it would happen to me, I would say, why is this happening to me? And, give me a book. I can learn this. I don't need this to happen to me. And I mean, a lot of really horrific things. But when I look back now, especially since, I've counseled people for so many years, as long as you have, I realized that every one of those bad experiences would teach me what it's like to go through that. So when I have someone coming to me for counseling, I know exactly where they're at. I know exactly what they're going through. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it was a father whose all three sons are in the NHL. Okay. I was a big hockey fan, so it was easy for me to talk to him. a mother who, her husband was in prison, crying on the phone. And guess what? I had that similar situation when I was, 20. So when you look back at your life, especially when you get to what I like to call the matriarchal years, where your gift is to share what you've learned with the next generation, I realized exactly why I picked all those challenges, why I survived all those things, whether it was, physical ailments, diseases, emotional ailments, religious quandaries, all this stuff. It's like, I hate to say it, but it's like been there, done that. And it's a good thing, because of what use would I be to somebody else, and there's so many people, I'm sure you've met them too, Monica, whether they want to call themselves a life coach or whatever title they give themselves. They go to some weekend retreat, they get a certificate, they paid $2,500 to do the weekend, and right away they're experts. But when you look at their lives are falling apart at the seams, but there they are putting themselves out as a success and really rolling in the dough. And I have to tell you, I have very little respect for people like that, because spirituality is something that takes years to develop, to trust, and to work with. And I've had students who, I want to be where you're at. I want to know everything you know. And I'm like, hey, it took me 60 years to learn all this shit. I can't teach it to you in, in a 1 hour session.
Here's the point. First of all, you're going to come across as authentic because you've been through the stuff just like me. Otherwise, we'd be frauds. Secondly, we've gone through all this information and research and knowledge and experiences to save other people 50 years of their lives from having to go through what we went through. So we got all the lessons, we've got all the answers, which is why people call us to consult. Because, I can give you a regular screwdriver or a power screwdriver, but you don't know how to use a power screwdriver until I teach you. Which one are you going to choose after that? So the key is you can learn something quickly because we have answers, but we went through all the experiences of having to learn this stuff ourselves. Back in the day, we didn't have a lot of resources. I was listening to 33 RPM records back in the early 60s, like Art Winkletter, because he was a motivational speaker, or Zig Ziglar. And I would listen to them over and over and over again. And then we started getting cassettes in the 70s. So I studied a lot on my own. And it was hard to find teachers until I found one in 1969 who was amazing. And I leached onto her. The key is that a lot of people get complacent these days.
Well, they get frustrated. Some people get frustrated, Monica. They think that it's going to happen, instantaneously.
No, it doesn't work like that. We have to choose. The whole point of this, at this point in time in life, because the vibrational frequency of this planet is a lot higher than the third dimension. So we have to grow with it. And in order to be able to get out of here, we have to utilize spiritual tools in order to be able to move forward and keep moving forward and not get stuck. That people get stuck. That's why when they call me, I say, okay, you called me because it's time for you to get unstuck, right? Yes. Okay, so what is stuck? That means that we haven't learned anything new when there's information everywhere. And we didn't have that growing up. We didn't have computers. We didn't have Google. We didn't have YouTube. We didn't have resources that teach us things instantaneously.
You had to figure out the Dewey Decimal System in the library.
Oh, my God. I used to do numerology charts, and I had to use logarithms, and I was bad with math. It would take me 3 hours to do a chart. Now you just run in that information on the computer, get it back in like 2 minutes,
Exactly.
So it's like there's no reason why people should have to complain. The key is get out of the ruins.
Well, what I like to let people know, because they do get frustrated on their spiritual journey. They just want, they want everything right away. It's understandable. However, as I remind my students all the time, the end of the journey is death. So what's the rush? Okay. To me, if you're not learning something new every day, that day is wasted. No matter what it is, whatever it is you're learning, doesn't have to be something spiritual, but spirituality is a very natural part of who we are. So even when I was
fortunate, because my mother, who had an 8th grade education, always said, learn something new every day. From the time I was 10.
Right. Well, your mother always gave you good advice from our past conversations, But when I was a kid, it's interesting because even though, I felt I was born into a religion, I knew as a little girl, maybe 5 years old, that I didn't need religion to talk to God or whatever it was that we titled it in those days.
Yeah.
I didn't need religion to tell me that God is love. It was something I innately knew. And I felt even as a child that I didn't need a middleman to communicate with all that is.
That's correct. That's correct. And my experience was that I was raised Catholic because coming from a Latina family, they just normally do that. But then by the time I was 18 years old teaching seminars, it was called SOS, Seminars on Success. I had 3 nuns and a Mother Superior in my class from St. Justin's Church in Santa Clara, California, now known as Silicon Valley. And they said, you need to leave the Catholic religion because you've outgrown it and you need to study others. And so I always tell people I got permission from the Mother Superior to leave the Catholic Church.
You got pardoned. You got a pardon early in life, which was probably a good thing. But
and then my mother and I decided to go to the Science of Mind, which is pretty much like a Unity Church. And that's where I learned all about metaphysics, and that really started, and it found me my teacher and everything. And so everything leads you, I mean, I was going to be an interpreter at the UN. I studied French, Italian, and Spanish, and that was my goal. But then all of a sudden life takes, it's like that old saying that John Lennon wrote in his song, life is what happens to you while you're busy making other plans.
That's the truth of it. That is the truth of it. I've said that to so many people,
Yeah.
So
there's some keys in order to create a better life, so it's not going to be a struggle for people any longer. We got to get rid of the word struggle too, because when we believe in that, we're believing in duality. And the whole key, I believe, to life and to win is to stay in oneness and let go of the duality. So as we're using our words and as we're thinking our thoughts and as we're looking at the experiences on the outside, look at everything as data. It's information. And the information is there so that we know how to shift and what to do about it.
Exactly.
That's why each one of us are powerful.
Mm-hmm.
So the key for me is to say, I don't struggle anymore. I don't fear anymore. I don't worry anymore. I don't have any doubt any longer, because those are not who I am. That's duality. I don't believe in, I had a call from a lady who was freaking out because some lady was doing these voodoo things on her and stabbing her here and there and stuff. And I was like, oh my God. Not when I have the flu. So I just told her, I said, you either are into oneness or duality. Well, what does that mean? I said, oh my gosh.
Right.
Oneness is the light. Oneness is God. Oneness is love. When you stay there, the other stuff will immediately it's almost like you're a force of a magnet that pushes all that stuff away from you. Mm-hmm. It can't even touch you. It can't come close to you.
Right.
So therefore, it's happening around you, which is why we call this peace amid the chaos. And if you don't mind, I'd like to tell you a very short parable, because I am an ordained minister with a metaphysical spiritualist church since 1972. And one of the things we had to learn, we had to study the Bible, but we studied it differently because we see it all as symbolic. Otherwise, if you look at it as literal, it contradicts itself.
Of course.
It's really a messed up book if you look at things literally. So one of my favorite parables that I've taught people is this one. When Jesus, and again, remember, I'm talking as an example, as a symbolic story, okay? So when Jesus and the apostles were all on this boat, they were in the thunderstorm, and the waves were going back and forth, but Jesus gets off the boat, and he's walking on water. So I think it was Peter, yes, that looked at me and said, how can you do that? There's a storm around us. You're going to go under. And Jesus says, look in my eyes, which means focus on light, focus on love, focus on this. Look at my eyes and get out of the boat. So he did, and Peter was walking on water as well. But then he looked around him and he saw the chaos of the thunderous waves and the storm, and he started to sink because he was looking at the chaos instead of being focused. Mm-hmm. So he said, no, look at me again. So he looked in his eyes and he rose above the water and walked on water. Now, that's what this means. It means that there's chaos going on the planet. You can focus on that and get frustrated and get down about it and get, pissed off or whatever, or you could stay focused and centered on light and love, and that will raise up.
Right.
Well, high frequency, because what raising up means, a higher frequency, and water actually represents emotions. So when you're being raised, you're raising your frequency to one of love, and that's what keeps us not only protected, but then it opens up the right brain, which is called intuition, and we start receiving messages and guidance. And when you get a message and guidance, it can only tell you the truth, and it tells you exactly what you need to do next. So don't sit there and go back and forth and say, well, but, I got an idea to write a book, but who's going to publish it?
Right.
Or is it going to sell? Don't even go there. That's left brain bullshit stuff. So what you have to do is just say, I'm going to follow this. I'm going to take action immediately. I'm not even going to argue, and then watch what happens.
Right. I do want to go back to when you were talking about worrying and what a waste of time that is. And just remind my listeners, especially my new listeners, I've got a great show with Catherine Tristan. It's from February 13th, 2013. She wrote a fabulous book, Why Worry? You can still listen to that interview in the archives. And one of the things I remember the most, because there's always something that sticks in my head from the millions of guests I've had on the show about their work, is she said 80% of what we worry about never happens.
That's correct.
So, Alfred E. Newman said it best, what? Me worry? And forget your troubles, come on, get happy. I mean, you think about so many songs that have, they didn't mean, I'm sure, to be spiritual songs. But when you think about it, there's a lot of songs about being happy, okay? Even if it's,
one of my favorite is, since you brought that up, because I do sing this in my head, oh, what a beautiful morning, oh, what a beautiful day.
All right. I've got a beautiful
What's the rest
feeling.
Of it? How's the rest of it go?
I've got a beautiful feeling everything's coming my way.
Going my way.
Right, but when you think about it, they're out there, it doesn't matter, even if it's Rasta music, because a lot of that is about being happy. But music is another way of calming yourself. People have asked me for so long, Monnica, and they still do. How do you function, Meria? How do you sleep at night? How are you not having a nervous breakdown covering the world news as you do for so long? Because a lot of times people say to me, I couldn't listen to the news show today. It was just too much. I don't know how you do it. And they literally worry about me. And I tell them that, once I'm done with the show. Okay. I don't let it stick to me. I get back to life, get back to your life. Okay. What is it you want to?
Yeah. And music does center our emotional, our chakras.
Absolutely.
So,
I mean, listen, there's a reason.
Stand outside in your backyard with bare feet on your grass for 10 minutes and receive Mother Earth's love. That'll do it.
Absolutely.
That's a really good one. It's easy.
Absolutely. And I've told people that for years as a teacher of the medicine wheel, which of course has many functions. But, if you sit down on the earth and you're living your life in a sacred manner, maybe that's something we need to go into a little deeper. But if you're living your life in a sacred manner, Mother Earth will take whatever you've got to give her, and she'll just refill you. A couple of weeks ago, my daughter got ill in London. Mm-hmm. And she was, trust me, she was close to death. Okay.
I believe it. I've been through what she's been through.
Right.
It's terrible.
So as soon as, she let me know, I did what I know how to do. I immediately started an absentee long-distance Reiki healing for her. And if my Reiki students are listening, which I know you are, that would be the one I taught you with the triangle. And then I went outside because I have the beauty of 2 huge medicine wheels on my property. And I took that Reiki symbol with me for my daughter. And I didn't mess around with some of the lesser stones in the wheel. I put it under the Creator Stone and said, I want you to save my daughter. And I walked out of that wheel. And the next day, boom, she started having a turn for the better, and then she got
There
home.
you go.
There's
you know
a lot.
exactly what to do.
Right.
And people need answers like that. People that are listening to you should study with you about the medicine wheel, because it is a very powerful tool to have.
Listen,
I want to tell your listeners something right now.
Sure.
This has got to stop. Stop sending worry to Meria. Don't worry about Meria. When you're doing that, that's the most irresponsible thing you could be doing to her, because worry sends her negative energy. What you do is you send her light, okay? Because a worry is the opposite of faith. We know that. So when you send her worry, you're not helping her at all. You actually make it harder on her. So be kinder and send her love and light, and she'll continue, because she does this work all the time. It is very wearing. I always say, God, I don't know how you do it, because I know that that's not my path. I couldn't do it. I help people individually. But this woman does unbelievable stuff, and she has this gift to be able to deliver this information. But she's delivering us data. information. Look at it like that.
Yeah, but I don't let it
Mentally.
stick to me. I get back to my life. I throw in a load of laundry. I get in my shower. I get over to the gym. I do my shopping. I clean my house. I do the same things everybody else does. That's the best way to
I hear
stay
that.
in
You take care of
balance.
you, but I'm just telling your listeners, don't worry about her. Send her light. If you're
Right.
concerned, and get rid of the word worry, by the way, and replace it with concern, okay? Because people say, well, I'm worried about my nephew. I got a text this morning that one of my best friends, her cousin just passed away this morning, and I thought, well, it's like you don't die. Your physical body does, but we continue because we are spirit after all, and the spirit is love. So what is it that we focus on our mind, our emotions, our body, but we don't focus on the spirit? That's who we are.
Exactly.
And so if you want to make one shift today, just say, I am spirit, and spirit is love, therefore I am love, and I'm connected to the source of love. If you just say that, I mean, it's so simple. And another prayer is just thank you. 2 words, thank you. I learned that from Wayne Dyer years ago.
Right.
So if you don't have time for this stuff, which to me is odd because I think that I'm a priority and I have a responsibility to make sure I'm in a good space. By every person doing this, do you know that we can overcome the vibrational frequency of this planet?
Absolutely. Absolutely. God, how many centuries have people been saying that? Change begins with one. Change begins with you. Change begins within. I mean, you can go all the way back to Gandhi for that one. And
but people don't know how. They don't know what to do.
Well,
so now that's what this show is all about. We're teaching you exactly what to do.
Exactly. Well, we're going to take a short break, so stay with us. Monica and I will be right back. Hi, Meria here. As you know, I always talk about spirituality being your only ticket out of here. You may or may not be familiar with Usui Reiki, but I've been a Usui Reiki master for almost 30 years. You may also not know that you can come in person and get your Reiki attunements with me anytime you'd like. I've had people fly here, even from another country, to get their Reiki attunements with me. Why? Because they trust me. Reiki is a wonderful thing, and it's the best way to develop your own intuition naturally. You don't need to do anything. The attunements start honing in on your intuition and developing it. It's great for self-healing. It's great for healing others, and it automatically starts to eliminate your karma. I do keep these sessions intimate. I've always taught it one-on-one, and that's the way I will continue to. So if you're interested in that, making a weekend out of it, that would be great. Just send me an email at meria@meria.net, and we'll figure out the best time and how to do it. So remember, what I always say, we are all here building our next house. Might as well use every tool available to us. Thanks. Okay, welcome back to Awaken with Meria and Monnica. Between the two of us, we probably have 100 years of study and experience.
We do. Actually, we do.
And we have a good sense of humor. And, we live our lives in a balanced manner. Listen, there's a lot of ways people need to be in balance. And sometimes, like, I had a client recently. Everything about this person's life is just work. Just work. And I said, all right, you're so out of balance. You're not really having a life. Okay, to be in balance, you've got to be in balance emotionally, physically, spiritually, sexually, financially. There's so many ways to be in balance. But I think that a lot of times when people just have one focus in their lives, it's a way of avoiding everything else about life. And life is to be enjoyed. We're here to be, participatory. It's not, it's not a viewer sport, and you're only responsible for your life. So if if your life is taking a dip, don't blame it on somebody else. Okay, you've got to look at, what did I do to create this situation? What am I supposed to learn from it?
That's the question to ask. What is the lesson contained here? When we know that, we don't lose anything. If we lose the lesson, we've lost everything.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So I always tell people, once you get in that centered, in that light, then send it out to the planet. Send it out to anyone that's suffering. For me, it's the caged kids. I send it to them. I send it because I have a real soft spot for animals. Mm-hmm. So I send it to all the animals as well. Anyone that's suffering. And I actually take emotions that come from my body that were in a negative place, mm-hmm. and I'll say, you're converted to pure love now. I want you to go to every single animal hospital and give your love to those animals so that they heal fast. You can assign them specific tasks. It makes it a little bit more interesting.
Right.
Because love brings up anything unlike itself to be healed.
Right.
Love brings up anything unlike itself to be healed. So therefore, we don't need to stay in a low frequency. We can choose to stay in love, and then that makes everything change all by itself. I dare you all to do this every single day for 7 days, and then don't do it for 7 days and notice the difference.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You'll choose this every time.
Well, you set your tempo for the morning, as soon as you wake up. I remember, Sun Bear had a really good way of teaching and a good sense of humor when he taught, which I think is very important. If you don't have a sense of humor on this planet, you might as well forget about it. But he said, most people wake up in the morning cursing their alarm clock, and they expect to have a good day. So he said, instead of waking up in the morning, throwing your alarm clock across the room, cursing it, why don't you just wake up in the morning and say, thank you, Great Spirit, I'm alive.
Thank you. And you know that, and there's, even though an alarm clock is inanimate, it's really not inanimate, because if you hold anything under very high powerful microscopes, you're going to see, electrons, neutrons, and protons, and they're not standing still, they're moving around, which means everything has consciousness. So that alarm clock is doing you a favor to make sure that you get up on time, so why are you getting mad at it?
Right. Well, I think that if you're mad about going to work because your alarm clock went off and you have to go to a job you hate, I know that even though they want us to believe, it's hard to get another job or whatever. And I've counseled this to a lot of people through the years. If you hate your job so much, find one you really like. If you can't afford to leave that job, take some classes at night in different things that actually interest you, and learn some other talent or technique or skill to get a different job, because somewhere along the line there's someone out there who would love to have the job you hate. But if you're going to spend most of your day at work and you hate it, you have to look at, why am I creating that for myself?
Absolutely. Our emotions and our feelings, especially when it comes to intense hatred, it simply tell you you're in the wrong place. But then most people are too afraid to take a chance and find something else, because what if they don't find something else? What if this? One of the most dangerous questions we can ask ourselves is, what if, or how is it going to happen?
Right.
That's none of our business. That's where the higher power that you're connected to takes over.
That's where trust.
It's like our own magical genie. It will tell us. And when we stay in a place of love, the very thing that we need will automatically come to us. I have a document that's really good. It's called the 10 Steps of Spiritual something. Oh, gosh. I'll have to find that one. But it's so good because, it's under inspiration. There's one sentence in it that really made sense to me. And if you talk for a moment, here it is. Top 10 Spiritual Principles document. I should have had that up already. But when I was reading that, I found one sentence that made complete sense to me, because everyone keeps trying to make things happen. And as Yoda said, there is no try. You either do or you do not. Because trying requires effort, and the effort brings stress. So that doesn't even make sense to try something. Just do it, So here it is. This is a line. When fulfilled within your being, and you tend to want less and need to do less, and ironically, you attract and have more. So the key is to be at peace, and the very things that you want to have will manifest all by themselves. Mm-hmm. You don't have to try to do anything.
When anybody uses the word try around me, whether they're a client or one of my friends, I say, throw that word out. When you ever use the word try, it's doomed to fail. Okay.
Waste of time.
Try if, people, have, and when I hear those, I don't mean to come across like a severe English teacher, but I do. It's, if I had a ruler in my hand, I might smack them across the hands. But, talking about what you're talking about, I have to tell you a story, which I don't think I shared before.
Okay.
And it was 1985. I had now been working in the corporate America for 20 years or 22 years. In 1984, to alleviate the stress of my corporate job, I started taking a couple of classes for fun. Okay, one of them was watercolor. The other one was I studied with this lady a few towns away. I wanted to study tarot. And it was 1985, and I got into a situation, we'll call it, with my boss. And I basically, blew out of there. And I went home. I was married at the time. And I said to my husband, I said, I just got fired. He's like, get out of here. Who would fire you? but we had a personality clash and whatnot. But I looked at my husband and I said to him at that point, I said, you know what? I've been working for everybody else for 22 years. I'd like to take the summer off and see if I could make something happen with my tarot readings and my watercolor painting. But because we were married and I'm a fair partner, I knew it was a decision we had to make together. That was 1985. I never went back to work for anyone else. By 1986, a year after I picked up a paintbrush, I had a one-woman show in Soho, New York.
Let's see, you followed your instinct.
Right. And, I mean, I tripped into radio. I will admit I tripped into radio. That was crazy. I never had any intention of doing radio. I tripped into carrying a show on the internet because I thought it would just be fun to try for a couple of months. Had no idea it would turn out to be 20 years. But when people say to me, especially my kids, why does it always have to be you doing all this work? I said, well, who else is going to do it? Let's look at it. I can read, I can write, and I can speak. So who else can do it?
Yeah. My radio career started in 77. And I got myself on there because this woman named Jackie Ryder kept having all these fraudulent psychics. Back then I knew Sylvia Brown really well. I used to go to her house every week, and I knew she was a fraud. But you know what? I still learned some. Sometimes you don't like the messenger, but you like the message.
Right.
So we became very good friends until she stabbed me in the back, and then I realized, oh yeah, she is who I thought she is. But we were on television shows together, Lisa Gibbons, and different television shows nationally and stuff. And she was, oh my God, that woman was nuts.
Oh, she was very dark. She was very dark. Her teachings were very dark, and yet she got promoted to all over the place. I just want to go back. I know, but I
know so much about her because I
do too, but why waste our show on her? That's the way I see it.
But the point I'm trying to make is that you will find fraudulent people out there, like you were talking about earlier.
And they're busy all the time.
You have to look at their resume to see, what's out there about them. Even I have testimonials on my website as well.
Right. I mean, I had somebody in Wisconsin this week who was interested in Reiki. And I said, unfortunately, I don't have a Reiki student in Wisconsin. I do have Reiki students that can teach and treat people, in other places, but it just so happens not Wisconsin. But I told him the same thing. I says, you have to find somebody you can get references from, talk to their students, and have a treatment with them first to see if you even feel you resonate with that person. Because even in the Reiki field, there's so many phonies out there doing dastardly things to their students that it amazes me. So you either have integrity or you don't have integrity. I have integrity. I was raised that way. I don't know how to be any other way. But like I tell all my, clients, with the story I just told you of taking that chance in 1985, if you're not willing to roll the dice on yourself, why should someone else be?
Well, that's the whole key about having faith. You just do it. And for me, it was a natural transition, and now I'm teaching 40 lessons, very powerful lessons to my clients, and they pay like next to nothing for these lessons. But the reason I'm doing this is because I know I'm going to be putting myself out of business in a few years, and I want them to know what I know. So they're taking these lessons, and I do it via Skype or FaceTime or WhatsApp. And it really does work. It's working out really, really well. I'm very happy with it. Reiki is probably something completely different. I teach absent healing and hands-on healing, but I can do that on Skype. I would love to learn more about Reiki because I always like to learn.
Well, you'll have to bring your happy little ass out to Arizona one day. Listen, I've worked with a lot.
Arizona right now.
I will tell people this right now. I have been in this business, we'll call it a business, for a very long time. And I've used everything from tarot to crystals, Reiki, you name it, hands-on healing. I can honestly say that absolutely nothing compares to the power of working with a medicine wheel. Nothing.
That's why you're an expert, my dear, because you found the truth for you and it works.
Well, being raised a Jehovah's Witness, when my older sister and I had broken free, we broke free. We still had, because of being a Jehovah's Witness, you do have, believe me, an excellent knowledge of the Bible by the time you're done, because it's shoved down your throat like 18 hours a week. But we still felt the need for something. So the two of us decided we were going to go on a religion search, okay? We tried, we tried a temple, we tried this, we tried that. But the best one was when we went into this black church because it was a happening place. The music was great, people were dancing in the aisles. We're the only two white people in the audience. But still, it didn't fit, that it didn't fill the hole. So I had to wait. Believe it or not, I had to wait until 1988, okay? Mm-hmm. And then through serendipity, I tripped across Sun Bear and saw the medicine wheel for the first time in my life. And when I stood...
when the student is ready, the teacher will appear.
Right. And when I stood at the edge of that medicine wheel, my entire body started vibrating. And the tears were just flowing down my face. It was like a freak out for me. But for me, I had come home. I had found something that made sense, okay? It was something that actually made sense that I could work with, especially being an environmentalist. It was just the perfect package to me.
That's how you can tell, because you got validated immediately with the tears and with the, whatever the physical manifestation.
Right. So any kind of spiritual work anybody's doing out there, you're doing a healing on somebody or whatever. If you were to work within a medicine wheel, it would amplify the power of what you're doing. And nature responds. Okay, nature responds in kind. Always. Because I remember doing a medicine wheel out on the desert once. I must have had about 80 people sitting around this wheel in the open desert, which was so magnificent at night, I can't even put words to it. Mm-hmm. And as soon as I lit up the sage, all the coyotes started howling. It was like I staged it, and everybody thought it was a recording, and I said no. And they said, well, how could it be that they just started howling like the second you did that? And I said, because everything in nature knows when a two-legged is doing something sacred.
Mm-hmm, absolutely, because their senses are 28 times more powerful than ours, or stronger than ours. All animals. This is why,
right.
I'm such an animal person, because I know how sensitive
right. So
they
when
are.
you look at...
I got to tell you, yesterday I was talking to David Icke, our friend, and because I was asking him questions like, do you ever go through this? Does this ever happen to you? And he said, he calls me Monty. He said, Monty, we all go through it because we're humans.
Right.
The key is not to stay there, but to let it pass.
I always say the human part is the hardest part of being here.
Yeah,
if I could spend all day just teaching spiritual stuff, I'd be super happy.
The thing is that we chose to do this to help other people, and I think that is something we can be proud of when we leave. And we did a damn good job. I'm not done with mine yet. I've got.
I'm not either, but I'm trying to duplicate myself through my students as fast as I can, because I'm going to leave. I want to leave a lot of mini-me's behind.
Well, this is why I'm teaching 40 lessons, so that people get exactly how I do what I do. And it's basically 40 lessons, and we do it in 20 sessions, which is really good.
Right.
So if anyone's ever interested in that, I can send me an email and I'll send you the list of lessons that I teach. They're a lot of fun, but they're really intense.
Well, we started the show off talking about how to be in balance with all the chaos out there. And, it could be simple things. If you want to stay in balance, you could play classical music when you get home. Don't allow negative people in your house. Leave your job at work when you leave the office. Take a plant and watch it grow. Tend a plant. It could be a potted plant. Tend that plant every day, because that's a form of meditation. I forget which author it was that I interviewed years ago. They said we would have peace on earth if every man tended a garden. But we've gotten so far removed from, farmers, real farmers, Adam and Eve in the garden, okay? But just putting your hands in the soil is a sacred thing. Growing some of your own food if you have the space, also balancing and sacred. And it doesn't matter if you have an apartment. You can build a little portable wheel anywhere you want in your apartment. Take it out when you want to use it, put it away when you don't.
There's so many tools.
Right, if you have the choice to
I really lean towards Taoism, because I'm all about frequency, vibration, and dimension. Mm-hmm. And when we learn to master physics, as Einstein said, we can master this planet in our lives. But we get so involved emotionally. Even Tesla said the same thing, that we have the ability to connect with extraterrestrial beings who gave him pictures, and he did reverse engineering in order to be able to invent things. But we can also do it for ourselves. One of my favorite, and one of the things, like Meria was talking about, things that you can do. One of the things that I started doing years ago is I read an inspiring quote every single day. Go to Google, type in inspiring quotes, and read one, and save it if you like it. But this one is my favorite. Everything is energy, and that's all there is to it. Match the frequency of reality that you want, and you cannot help but get that reality. It can be no other way. This is not philosophy. This is physics. Albert Einstein.
Right, exactly. But, like I think I've mentioned it before, when I was younger, I honestly thought that I was here to save the planet. But of course, that was just, I was a little naivety and just, looking around and saying, yeah, I can fix all of this. And then I got past that and I realized the earth doesn't need us to save it. We need the earth to save us. It's the other way around.
And it's so funny because my next quotation, because I brought about 4 of them in order to read it. It says, "The world doesn't want to be saved. It wants to be loved. That's how we save it."
Mm-hmm.
So
right.
we send love to this planet, and it transforms. Love is so powerful, and people don't realize that. My third quotation, really quickly, so I can get a chance to get these in, because I know we're going to be done pretty soon.
Yeah.
The reason people awaken is because they have finally stopped agreeing to things that insult their soul. Does that sound like somebody like Trump? Hello?
Right.
Right. I'm not going to sign on to that at all.
Right.
This is one that came to me when I was waking up. Love is who we are. There is no other truth. Choose love in every moment, and all that we need shall manifest. When we take care of ourselves first, the planet will shift to match our frequency. Acts of love wakes up others to the same truth. This is how powerful we are. And the last one I have is raise your vibration. All that is not in alignment will naturally leave you.
Exactly.
So start reading a quotation every day. Even that little thing, that takes a few minutes. That makes all the difference in the world. It gets our head right,
Mm-hmm.
because that left brain loves to take over. I call it the white noise. I call it the troublemaker.
Right.
It tries to guide us, and we're in charge of our mind. And if, you want to learn some more tools and techniques, oh my God, Meria and I have a ton of them.
Right. Well, you could do like I do, which I've been accused of being a crazed tree hugger. I go out and I talk to my trees. I talk to them every day. If I'm walking and I see a beautiful, group of flowers, I thank them for sharing their beauty with me.
You have to.
When I take a drive, and there's so much beauty still left in the state of Arizona, when I take a drive, and it's the same drive from here to the valley, but it never looks the same because the seasons change. There's cloud covers, the sun, the shadowing. There is never one time that I don't say, I'm thankful I have eyes to see this beauty. And I can imagine how the world was before humans were on it, because it takes you to a different space. There's no electric poles. There's no wires in the sky. It's just beautiful open desert. And I feel blessed that I was able to live in the open desert as long as I was able to before it became, suburbs.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you came into this world with a lot of knowledge already, which is why you knew at such a young age. I teach people psychometry. Go out to the beach, pick up one grain of sand, and ask it to speak to you and tell you about its history. And my gosh, it's amazing the kinds of information that comes through. Getting back to the original point that I was making is about how we paid our tuition in order to get to where we are now. Instead of looking at it as a negative, we see it as, okay, I made an investment in myself. I paid for an education, and I have a PhD now, and I'm stronger for it. So we have to constantly redefine ourselves and just say, you know what? I am loved, and I'm stronger because of what I went through, and I'm grateful for that. And that allows us to be more human and allows us to be able to relate to other people. Now, there's people that are going to be very stubborn, and they want to hold on to their misery. And
Right.
you can't do anything about that.
No, you can't fix anybody else. You can only fix them
suggest
through your own
sending them love,
actions.
All
right.
Put them in the hands of, like it says, release the burden that's upon you, cast it and give it to your higher power, God, and set yourself free. Don't be ever, ever restricted and feel trapped because of another human being. Send them love. you know.
Exactly.
There's a lot of families.
Or send them off with love. Okay, you don't have to be in a bad situation, but you don't have to end it in a nasty way. You can just say, "I wish you the best, but not around me." So,
or like in that movie, The Fiddler on the Roof. He I don't remember this part. He said, "God bless them and keep them far away from me."
I love that movie. Anyway, Monica, we're out of time. I want to thank you as usual. Yes, darling, we are. You are, Blanche. You are. So,
yeah, Blanche. If anybody hasn't seen that movie with Joan Crawford and Betty Davis, Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, that's where that line comes from.
Right, it's a great movie. Probably one of their best. Anyway,
absolutely. And I wanted to say in closing, Meria, is to have your listeners download this show and take notes.
Absolutely. Listen to it a couple of times. That's the beauty of my archives. You can listen as many times as you want to.
Absolutely. And, everything that we hear within 72 hours, most of it will be gone. So when you write it down, you crystallize your thinking and you'll remember it and you'll start using it. So listening isn't enough. You have to write things down.
Right. All right, doll. I'll talk with you soon.
Thank you so much, Meria, for this show. I think it was an important one.
I do too. And a breath of fresh air. I'll talk to you soon.
Fresh air.
I'll talk to you soon.
Take care, honey. Love you.
Love you too.
Bye-bye.
Monica Sepulveda. Check her out at Monica with 2 N's, Monnica.com. And if you resonate, you might want to take some classes. But, these are shows where we're giving you a lot of tips, a lot of hints. We can't make you do anything. It's up to you to make your own decisions and whatever feels right. And like I tell a lot of my clients, if your religion works for you and you're in, a pickle, just work your religion harder because eventually all that faith turns into almost the same thing anyway. Anyway, thanks for supporting the show. Thanks for listening today. Tell your friends about it, and I'll see you guys next time.
Thank you for listening and supporting The Meria Show. Tell others what you learned today. Knowledge becomes wisdom only when it's shared. Encourage others to subscribe today. www.meria.net. Often imitated, never duplicated. A world of information all in one place. www.meria.net. Always ahead of the curve. Always on your side. Get active or get radioactive. Subscribe today.